my name is Elizabeth Yin, and I'm a partner at 500 Startups. And just a quick intro about 500 Startups. We're a seed investment firm, so we write a lot of small checks. And we really want to scale venture capital. So to that end, we've actually made over 1,000 investments in the last few years. That's basically one investment almost every day. We've done this on 6 continents. So the one remaining continent left is Antarctica. It sort of remains to be seen whether we'll do an investment there. But we look at all kinds of software pitches, and lately one of the areas that we are really bullish on is the on-demand economy. We've made a ton of investments in this space, and a handful of these companies that we've invested in actually are on stage today, and you'll hear a little bit more from them. So without further ado, I just want to go ahead and introduce them to you. First we have John Coombs, who's the CEO and founder of Rover. And Rover is an iBeacon engagement platform. And then to his left is Yehia, and he's the CEO and co-founder of a company called Sidewalk. They are essentially a sales tool for SMB companies. Next we have Sara, Schaer, who is the CEO and founder of a company called KangaDo, and they are an Uber for after school. And lastly, we have Kevin Davis, who's the CEO and co-founder of a company called Geekatoo, which is basically Uber meets Geek Squad. So I will let them take it away, and they'll be coming up here and talking about this new on-demand economy.
Thanks, Elizabeth. All right. So yeah, I'm John, founder of Rover, and really glad to be here. We were a 500 startups company, as you heard. Great experience meeting a lot of co-founders and sort of existing in this lovely, exciting ecosystem. So I get to talk about beacons and kind of tell you a little bit about how we're addressing the space. So there's a lot of fanfare, a lot of media attention surrounded Beacon when it launched about a year and a half ago. But the challenge is really that Beacon is a very basic hardware, and the type of really ROI driving or engaging end user experience that most marketers are going for is kind of far off from what a Beacon can do unto itself. There's a gap there, but there's a good reason to bridge that gap, because Beacon triggered content or proximity triggered content is emerging as one of the more powerful and engaging channels available to marketers. And so across the verticals that we serve, we're seeing engagement rates of 45 to 85%, really highly engaged content on mobile. But so because that opportunity is so big, you've got a lot of enterprise marketers in many different verticals who are really eager to sort of put those pieces together and figure it out. But the challenge is complex. You're dealing probably with your mobile agency to bring in this functionality. You're looking at multiple platforms, iOS and Android. And then you're dealing with internal stakeholders, internal teams, IT, et cetera. So putting those pieces together can be challenging, and that's really what we do. We are a content management platform for Beacon. We sort of take the headache out of bringing proximity-based content in your app and really capitalizing on the power of the channel. And we do that with retailers such as Staples, all the way through to professional sports teams in the NHL and the NBA, helping them deliver really engaging content at a micro level. And so rather than talk about product, I like to show product. So I'm going to show a quick demo. And we're all very familiar with this sort of Beacon experience in retail where I walk in and I get a coupon, and that's driving basket size. And this is great. We do that. But also try to think outside of the box, and we work with some pretty cool partners on doing different things with the product. So I'm going to show you a demo that's more sort of in the tourism vertical. In this case, it's an aquarium, and it's a sort of interactive aquarium experience. And I'm going to show you that now. So the use case here is, I've got this aquarium app on my phone. I walk up to a fish tank, for example. I get my notification, and up pops content that's reflective of what I'm looking at. In this case, it's look up to your right. That's where the turtle is. He always hides on you. And then maybe some information about the fish that you're looking at. Again, this is about delivering the content that's reflective of what's immediately in front of me, right? Enhancing the value of that app. And so what we're really about is helping you as a marketer or marketers create these experiences very easily and seamlessly. So that's done through a CMS, which you're seeing here, where really we're bringing that sort of what MailChimp has done to email or what HubSpot does for inbound marketing, really making it accessible to create those experiences in your app. And so here you can see I'm kind of dragging in my photo, entering my copy, sort of making sure the look and feel is on brand. And building that experience through the web. So that's how Rover is really addressing the proximity-based content, enhancing mobile apps. It's very convenient that we had the deep linking session before us, taking the sort of the suck out of apps and really making them more relevant. And I think that's what we're excited about as it relates to Beacon and things like deep linking. And we're doing that in many verticals as well. So if you have any questions, I think we're going to have time for those after, and love to talk to you about it as well. So I'm going to pass it off to the next. You're up.
So thanks, Dave and Laura and Street Fight for the opportunity. It means a lot to us. I thought we'd talk a little bit about sort of how we view the small business landscape first, and then end with what we do at Sidewalk. So there's no shortage of shows that chronicle the strife and struggle of small businesses. There's also no shortage of so-called small business experts that seem to have all the answers. There's also no shortage of reasons why a small business may fail. But refusal to adopt technology, in my opinion, should not be one of them. And I think that's something that both the businesses and the so-called experts underestimate. So what do I mean by that? If you talk to business owners and you ask them what keeps them up at night, overwhelmingly they'll tell you finding new customers. But if you look at the stats, half of businesses still don't have websites. If you talk to consumers and you ask them what they're looking for when they visit a small business's website, the majority of them will tell you hours and directions, and if they don't find that, they're moving on to a competitor's site. But if you talk to business owners, half of them will admit to seeing incorrect listing information online. The vast majority of mobile local searches result in in-store traffic within a few hours, which is a pretty powerful stat. But the vast minority of small businesses have a mobile website. Most transactions are made with plastic, but only about half of businesses even accept plastic. Most consumers trust online reviews. Most businesses spend no time monitoring reviews. I read a statistic recently that we spend about half our time on digital media as opposed to with traditional media, and I'm sure that number is growing. But businesses spend nowhere near half their budget on advertising online. So basically, it's clear that there's a disconnect between consumers, businesses, and vendors. And if you're a vendor selling to a small business, you're probably fighting an uphill battle. So you may be selling a mobile ordering tool to a business that doesn't accept credit card because they want the ATM fees. Or you may be selling an appointment booking tool to a business that isn't sure if it's right for their customers because it feels impersonal. So that's where Sidewalk comes in. So our business intelligence helps sales and marketers close more sales to their ideal small business customer. So how do we do that? Basically, we score businesses on a scale of 0 to 100 based on things like how influential they are, how tech savvy they are, how quickly they're growing, how engaged they are, and ultimately how receptive they are to your product. So Ike's Place, which is a Bay Area sandwich shop that's doing everything right online, would get scored very highly, whereas Ike's Bikes, which is a Richmond, Indiana bike shop, is in a very different position. So if you're a small technology provider like Occasion and you provide online booking to small businesses, and you're looking for small businesses that accept bookings and classes and whatnot, but don't have a current online booking solution, we can help. If you're a big technology provider like Constant Contact, and you're looking to group your hundreds of thousands of businesses based on their level of sophistication so that you can upsell the spenders, the big guys, the folks that get it, and really handhold the guys that don't, we can help. If you're T. Edward and you're just trying to get your regional spirits on the shelves of up-and-coming liquor stores in Brooklyn, we can help there too. Or if you're Miller Coors, obviously a large brewer, and you're looking to make sure that your product is always at the buzziest bars in every major metro, we can help. I'm Mo, and we're Sidewalk. Thank you. I pressed every other button except for that.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sara Schaer, and I'm co-founder and CEO of KangaDo. KangaDo is Uber for after school. We're a mobile service that provides trustworthy rides and childcare for kids. Over 40 million moms in the US have kids under 18, and they need help taking care of them every day. I know because I'm one of them. My 2 kids are 10 and 13, and there just aren't enough hours in the day to get everything done and get them where they need to go. And transportation and childcare are the top 2 pain points. With 23 million school-aged kids going to and from school every day, it's no wonder that things can go wrong. This happened to my son. He was the last kid left at school after I left the office late and then got stuck in traffic. I never wanted that to happen again. And neither did he. In fact, when he signed up for baseball, he arranged his own carpool with a different mom. When it comes to childcare, it can't just be anyone. It really has to be someone you can trust. It's not surprising then that childcare is a $43 billion business. But parents who are seeking to get help with their kids face 3 important hurdles. First, how do you find the person? Where do you start looking? Online, sitter sites, ask friends and neighbors, all of the above? It's very, very time consuming. Second, how do you trust them? Do you know this person? What do you know about them? Do you know someone who can refer them? What are their qualifications? What's their experience? And third, how do you ask for help? How do you schedule it? And what's the quickest and most efficient way to get that set up? With KangaDo, you don't have to worry. The app helps you find trustworthy carpool partners in your neighborhood, parents with kids in the same school or on the same sports team. And scheduling childcare is just a matter of a few taps. Using KangaDo is as easy as 1, 2, 3. First, you make a request. Then a friend accepts, and you can thank them when it's done. No more endless phone calls, emails, and texts, wondering where your child is or with whom. It turns out that the problem is universal. Parents across the US have downloaded the app and connected with each other in neighborhoods and in school groups, because actually when it comes to trusting someone with your kids, proximity isn't enough. So what do you do when all your friends and family are busy, or your schedules just don't match, and you still need help with your kids? That's why we launched our private beta here in San Francisco, offering select parents access to pre-screened, background and DMV-checked sitters and drivers who can help. We show them who's closest by, what their qualifications are, which of their friends have booked them before, what neighborhoods they're part of, and any other affiliations, as well as what people thought, and they can communicate with them person to person. The need is universal, but each family's needs are specific. Take Stacy, for example. She's a busy mom of 2 kids. She drives morning carpool, but she's also a business owner. And when she's not in town, she needs someone else to help drive her kids to school. It's a good thing that she found Paige. Paige lives nearby. Paige has some time in the morning, and it's easy for her to simply stop on her way to the office and pick up Stacy's kids on her way. It only takes her a few extra minutes, but it's extra cash in her pocket, and she loves spending time with kids. When she babysits, there's parents in the app nearby who request her help, and as a result, when she babysits, it's actually usually within 1 mile of her house, which is convenient and saves time for everyone, plus she feels safer when she goes home in the evening. With KangaDo, we keep your kids safe and sound. It's true that it takes a village to raise a child, but this one fits right in your pocket. Come talk to us if you're interested in learning more. Thanks.
Are you guys still awake? Yeah. Nobody? Okay. All right. So my name is Kevin Davis. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Geekatoo. My talk's going to be a little bit different. I don't really want to talk about my company. I thought that'd be kind of boring. So instead, what I like to talk about is, we're a marketplace, and we were talking to other people about marketplaces and investors, and we kind of had this thing where there's this one-size-fits-all growth strategy. And I'm just so sick and tired of hearing some of these things that I think that every marketplace is different. So I want to identify 5 ideas that I think are at least not always true. And in our experience growing Geekatoo to a nationwide platform, ways in which we felt like we grew without the assistance of some of these ideas. So first off, every marketplace is different. Obviously, what I say right now is going to be true for some marketplaces and not true for other ones. Just want to make sure that's clear. First off, don't expand market by market. I know this is going to sound like blasphemy, but there's this idea that in order to build a marketplace, and the only way you can build a marketplace is, let's take San Francisco, we'll build up the supply, build up the demand, and then once you have a playbook, you move out and you expand that way. But we found a different way. So for example, can you find a way to source supply as the demand comes in? And can you find APIs that have local service listings for providers in your area that you can quickly find and add them to your network? Also, how extensive is your onboarding process? So can you take something that maybe takes a few days to a few weeks and condense that into a few hours, automate and scale that process as much as possible? And finally, can you utilize text messaging to automate finding prospective providers so that if I send an email to somebody saying, be a part of my system because it's going to be big one day, that's way different than a text message that they'll read on their phone saying, here's a customer, money, like, do you want free money, which is way better. So these are some ways in which, you don't have to think about it as a market-by-market approach, but go nationwide in the beginning. And if you can find that supply immediately or very quickly as the demand comes, I think it's actually a very viable growth strategy. Second, don't give users a choice when it comes to choosing providers. Some examples of this are Uber, HomeJoy, us, Geekatoo. So Uber, for example, you don't go on Uber and you say, there's 10 different drivers, I want to pick this one with a star rating and price and distance and all that. You just say, look, I just want to get from point A to point B. I don't care about the rest, just send me the best person at the time. For example, so if you know the provider's 5 stars, do you really need to choose them? Is there anything else beyond a star rating, or can you just say, look, we'll send you somebody quality and that's it? There's nothing else to really think about that. If you're collecting bids and can't provide a price immediately, well, the customer goes somewhere else. So if you're a search result on Google and they go to your site, they're like, okay, we'll try you out, and then about an hour later they're waiting for bids to come in. They might just go to the next listing. So it's really something that you have to watch out for if you give them that choice in the beginning rather than choosing somebody for them. It's a little difficult. If you know the best provider at any moment, why let the user choose in the first place? If I know out of 10 people, there are all these metrics beyond a star rating and whether they show up on time and all these things, why am I at least going to give them the choice? I'd rather just pick for them because that's the maximum probability of having somebody return with a 5-star review. So in other words, is it better to hire Joe from HomeJoy, or is it better to hire HomeJoy as a service? There are some exceptions to the rule. So when you think about Airbnb, Etsy, Kitchit, some of these companies that have a very stylized product, just because I see an Airbnb that's a 5-star place, I want to see, where is it, what the listing is. So I really have to see those providers. Same thing with Etsy. I want to see the product that I'm going to be purchasing. If you're doing home remodeling, there's a large cost savings. Really, by bidding, could you be saving hundreds or thousands of dollars? Then maybe, yeah, you might want to give them a choice. And response speed, if it doesn't really matter that somebody has to come to my place now or tonight, maybe that extra time allows them to give a little bit of choice, but still, like I'd say, it's mostly better when you choose for them. Don't evenly distribute your jobs to providers. So, for example, if you know the best providers, shouldn't you prioritize or saturate their workload first? If you have 100 providers in the Bay Area and you know that the top 5 will, unbroken chain of perfect customer scores, you want to saturate that provider first and move outward rather than blasting all your providers on an equal basis. If you're sending job notifications, will someone who hasn't received a job in a while really say no thanks? So people ask, if you're prioritizing some people, but somebody doesn't get a job notification for 3 months, if you're going to send them a customer, they're going to say yes. It's not a matter of, they're going to get off the platform. And lastly, if you route to many providers at once, won't it turn into a race of seconds in order to claim? So if you're distributing these jobs evenly to all your providers, it's really going to get into 5 seconds where somebody just hits the claim button and rather looking through the job, looking to see if they can actually service that job. Fourth, allow your providers to contact customers directly, obviously with anonymization. So a lot of marketplaces, I feel like, are scared to let that direct interaction happen. I feel like TaskRabbit is a good one. A lot of them where, if the provider talks to the client directly, then, you're forbidden to be on the platform. At Geekatoo, we want them to talk, because if you talk, like especially for us, when we're dealing with tech support and older people, they want to be on the phone, they want to talk to somebody and not have to come back to a website or an app, and so we want to allow that to happen. So basically, yeah, so the fifth one is only use a transactional model if recurring is impossible. So Uber, Ship, and Grubhub are perfect examples of transactional marketplaces that absolutely do work. I'm not saying that they should switch it up, but I still think that for a lot of transactional marketplaces, there's an opportunity to have a recurring component as well. For example, which model is a better deterrent against disintermediation or preventing the client and the provider to come together? Which one statistically provides more repeat usage and thus larger LTV? So if you're starting a marketplace, for example, and you're saying, well, let's charge this on a per transaction basis, or why don't we just prepay for a lot of services at one time and get them to do recurring payments on a monthly basis, I think that's a much better proposition. And so, for example, for transactional marketplaces like Kitchit, I don't know if you guys know that, but it's you have chefs come to your home, and rather than just doing one service or one, I'll pay for somebody to come right now, why don't you prepay, so for 5 or 10, or you get one every other week? It's a much better way to get revenue in the door and not have to worry about this transactional thing. So for example, I'm really being facetious with this, but if you have an Uber booty call plan for $49 a month for up to 2 rides per any weekend for 1:30 to 10 a.m., basically having a way where, yeah, you're using Uber on a transactional basis, but what if you prepay $50 a month and have it so on top of that transactional, you're getting this kind of guaranteed discounted rate, and you're prepaying ahead of time. And so, like I said, even though you have transactional models, I still think that adding that recurring component is incredibly important. And that's basically it. So like I said, these are just 5 ideas that I've seen time and time again that, like the expand market by market, which I don't think is correct, or at least it's always correct. So some of these might apply if you have a work or started a marketplace. Some of these may not. But still, I think at least that when somebody comes with a one-size-fits-all growth strategy for a marketplace, that at least you can kind of think twice about it. So thanks.
Great, thank you all. So we have time for one question, and I'm going to turn this over to you guys. I think the question is, in general, it's hard to build a startup. For all of you where there's a local or on-demand component, there are some additional complexities, such as making sure all the logistics of all your folks in your marketplace are being handled correctly, or maybe getting data from small businesses that don't have an online presence, or getting these beacons installed or having your customers install them correctly. Can you guys talk about a challenge in this area that you guys have faced with your companies and how you've solved it?
I get to start. I think in a new space like we operate in really our business is centered around beacons, although we use other technologies. There's a literacy component, and in addition to building a business and selling something, you're not really solving an existing problem because there's a net new technology you're building on top of. So I think it's about presenting the opportunity and telling the story of opportunity as opposed to necessarily building the business around the solving of the problem. And I think the best way to do that in many respects is to find the right partners to tell that dialogue as well. So, when it comes to the beacon space, the hardware providers were leaders in the market and sort of getting out there. We really are a layer on top of what they're selling. They're selling hardware, and we're selling something that turns that hardware into something that creates value. And so collectively, we have a stronger story. So I think partnerships and telling that dialogue of what you're doing, certainly in our case, has been helpful for us.
Yeah, for us, we had a giant pivot early on where we were like a TaskRabbit, and we had these bidding, somebody would come on, say I need my computer fixed, and we would give them 3 or 4 different bids. And so we took a look at that and said, well, the cost is probably the primary thing that people care about. And I think the thing that really the challenge that we were solving, or that we had to solve, was we were not listening to our customers. We were not, it wasn't about cost. It was about who can come, send the best person, send the best person out tonight. And we had to completely rewrite our whole system from scratch. And when we did that, we really felt truly what it was like to have product market fit. So, one of the challenges, for the question is that, we had to learn how to listen to what the customers wanted and not what we wanted for the customers. And it took 3 years to kind of pivot into that. And once we did, everything went just amazing for us. But that was a huge thing for us as a company, and once we listened to our customers and stopped telling the customers like what we wanted for them, I think it really helped us.
With us, we're one of those services that really is centered around trust. And we have a lot of new customers who just have never gotten help with their kids before, or certainly with transportation, that's a big hurdle to overcome. And we realized early on that, frankly, as a parent, you'd rather have the option anyway to book a driver like you book a sitter, with the option to interview them beforehand or have your child meet them. And so when we offered that rather than free rides or $2 rides or what have you, that converted people who just then never left, because they have 1 to 3 people that they're comfortable with who are on the school pickup list, who their child knows and loves, and they just evangelize around them. And it's different from what other services in the space are doing. So that was one people-based discovery that we had.
So for Sidewalk, I mean, it's not really a marketplace. Marketplaces scare me a little bit. Our customers are technology providers and consumer brands, and we passively collect information about small businesses. So that would be the other side of the marketplace. But having to go to businesses individually and talk to them and get them to give you information, which other folks do, that's just not what we're doing. I don't think that scales as well. You do give up some stuff. So for example, if a business told you, hey, I'm really interested in a reputation management tool, that's worth a lot of money to a specific vendor, versus us passively collecting information on the business and saying, hey, we think they're going to be receptive to a review management tool. For us, we just chose to kind of be able to scale and cover every small business, even though the intent of a small business we may not have captured it perfectly because we don't interact with them.
Great. Thank you guys, and thank you all.